Some of the laziest people on the planet are in college or business school. Now, formal education is the least efficient way to get information.
And this is why I feel like most people think college is not a scam, because they feel like the people that don't go to college don't like to learn, or they think that people that drop out are lazy. I would rather learn from people that have actually done what I want to do. I would rather learn from people that are actually knowledgeable.
Imagine having direct access to someone who's navigated life's toughest terrains and come out stronger. Someone who's been there, done that, and can guide you with empathy, experience, and honesty. This isn't just advice. It's a lifeline, a strategy session, a chance to learn from my journey so you can accelerate yours. Without the ability to be self-aware and introspective, the ability for you to get to where you want to go, nearly impossible. Hey everybody, welcome back to the David Guttman podcast. If you find this content useful, like, subscribe, and share. I am so excited for my guest today, Sergio Mendez, the founder and CEO of Influx.Agency. Originally born in Peru, or were you born here? I forget. I can't remember.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I was born here, moved to Peru when I was very, very young.
Right.
So I was about 4 years old when I moved there.
So we talked about this off camera, but basically you will be, for 1 hour, the youngest person I've had on my podcast. So you just turned 19, right? But you've basically been an entrepreneur since you're like, what, freaking 12, something like that?
Yeah, I started my first business when I was 12.
Well, so let's start on that journey and, talk a little bit about the start of that journey, and like, what did your folks do that you're so ambitious, like at such a young age?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting story. It kind of goes back to COVID. I feel like a lot of people really learned and changed their lifestyle completely when COVID happened. But for me, it was more when we moved from Peru, we moved during COVID, and my mom didn't really find a job. So she moved here with her savings, and very shortly after moving, things were a little bit tight in terms of like how to get food, how to go around. Everything was closed, so everything was way more expensive than usual. Yeah. And I was trying to figure out a way to buy video games at the time. I wasn't really thinking like the big picture, but I saw my mom not being able to, my whole life I've been provided an amazing lifestyle. We would travel a lot when we lived in Peru, but moving here, saving situations kind of made it difficult. So I wanted to be able to provide for myself and provide for my mom a little bit. So I started learning about business. I started dabbling into it, not too much. But then we moved to Melbourne because Melbourne, my uncle had a big house there. So it's like, we're going to be stuck in an apartment in Miami. Let's just go to Melbourne and live with my uncle. And he was the one that also owned the apartment in Brickell. So moved to Melbourne with my uncle and lived there for about 6 months. He was a doctor, so he's probably making about 500, 600K a year. And he had a Corvette. He had a nice house with a pool. And his kids were getting paid to cut his grass. And I was like, that's sick. I want a Corvette and I want a nice house, right? And his kids are getting paid to cut.
And how old were you at this?
So I was 12 years old at this time. But seeing that his kids were getting paid to cut the grass got me thinking, it's like, if I cut the grass and I make $20 cutting the grass, I can buy one video game. So for me to cut the grass one time, I get a video game, I'm happy. So I started cutting his grass. I started finding ways to provide as much value as him as possible, because that's the first time I saw money being able to come in for providing something. So I started cutting his grass. I would help him like move stuff around. I would help him clean the kitchen. I get $10, $20 here and there. And that was good. I bought a game that I always wanted to buy. It was like $25. And I bought it. I was like, holy shit, like I can actually buy games now. So that's how it originally started. After like maybe 6 or 7 months, moved back to Miami, and I saw an ad from this guy that was promoting an Amazon FBA course. Mm-hmm. And he was like, if you guys, people are buying things online now. Everybody's buying things on Amazon. You can make $20,000 a month easily. I do $50K a month. I'm better than everybody else. Like, typical course seller. Yeah. When course selling wasn't considered scammy yet. So I saw that and I was like, okay, this is really interesting. So I started consuming a lot of his free content. And I hopped into Amazon FBA. That's like the first real business I tried. On the side.
Did you buy his course?
I didn't buy his course because I didn't have enough money to buy it. So all I did, it's funny, I didn't even buy, how they always recommend some software that's like $100 a month. Like I couldn't even afford the software that he was using.
Right.
Because I was like, I only had $2,000 that my mom had given me. It was like probably like some of the last money she had in her bank account. Because I told her, I was like, I'm going to get 20K next month, as this guy's saying.
Okay.
And I used it to buy inventory. But I had no idea about how to actually properly
So
run the
wait, your
business.
mom gave you $2,000 to buy inventory.
Yeah.
And you're how old?
I was 12 at the time. I was probably
Okay,
about to turn
So
13.
your mom, like, now I got to talk to your mom. I got to have your mom on the podcast. I want to understand how her thought process. Let me give $2,000 to a 12-year-old to start this new business venture, but keep going.
Super grateful for it.
Yeah.
But I feel like
And she was smart, it turns out.
yeah. No, so I tried, and it's so funny because I still have the voice recordings for this. I lost every single last dollar and ended up owing Amazon $500 in ad spend.
Oh my God.
And I have the voice recordings of me calling Amazon crying, telling them that I needed to get a refund on the ad spend because I couldn't pay for it.
Wow.
And that's basically how I really got into business. At the side, I was also teaching people how to play guitar because I had been playing guitar since I was like maybe like 6 or 7. Like that was my first love for something that I was really focused on, was music. Ever since like maybe till I was like 14, my goal was to become a musician. I was looking at Berklee School of Music, and I was always trying to figure out how to go to music school. But then obviously, that wasn't
Right.
that wasn't what it turned out to be. But yeah, I was teaching people how to play guitar. I started then fixing and flipping guitars without really an idea of business. It was more like, this is making money. I can,
It's very transactional. Yeah.
very transactional, not really structured, not really planned. I threw an ad and offer up, got 2 clients. I was making $300 a month. Like that's
Right.
really what it was. But I was having the Amazon as like the main thing that was going to make me rich. That's what I thought originally. But yeah, lost everything. Have cried to Amazon to give me my money
So
back.
did they give you the money back?
I didn't get the money back. So I owe Amazon up to this day $500.
Still, you owe them $500. Let Jeff Bezos come after you for it, right?
Yeah. I was telling him, I was like, can you talk to, I had no idea. I was saying like, can you talk to Jeff Bezos, please? He has to
No,
be
you're
able
shitting
to.
me.
I'm not even kidding. I have the voice.
I'm gonna have to listen to this voice.
I kept telling him, I was like, you gotta be able to forgive me. Like, it's only if you
You know
guys.
what you gotta do? Here, think about what great content this would be. You got to find a way to meet Jeff Bezos and give him $500 and play the recording for him. That content would be sick.
That would actually be amazing. If you ever connect, everybody watching, if you guys ever connect to Jeff Bezos, put me on.
Put a comment below. DM me.
There's a bounty on it. We'll do a reward if you connect us to Jeff.
$500 bounty for the $500. Yeah.
Perfect. That makes sense.
Well, so keep going. So then, by the way, why did it fail? Why did the dropship thing not work out? What was the lesson you learned from it?
The lesson I learned from it was that I didn't know how to advertise. I didn't know how to properly run ads, which is funny now because that's what I do. But I feel like a lot of it comes from that. So every single failure I had in business for the first 2 years was the lack of understanding of marketing. I understood products like sourcing. I understood how to do product research. But when you watch free content, they always teach you like that stuff, like how to find, they always teach you how to start the business, how to find the product, how to organize it, how to supply it, but they never teach you how to actually sell it. So for the first 2 years of my journey, my biggest weakness was marketing, leads, sales, everything related to actually distributing products or services.
Yep. Got it. So then what's the next step? So that falls through, you're making a little bit of money doing, teaching, doing guitar lessons. So what was the next step? What happened next?
Yeah. And up to this point, everything that I've done in business has been very accidental. The way the guitar lesson stuff started was I had a friend in school that would watch me play guitar in the band for the school.
Right.
And he would ask me, I want to learn how to play guitar. I was like, great, it's $10 an hour. That's how it started.
Yeah.
So yeah, same thing with my second business. And obviously in the meantime, I've tried a bunch of different things. Like I tried a little bit of like investing with my mom, like trying to like learn from her, trying to teach her how to do it. I tried every single business, like drop shipping. Again, I did something called flip-ons, which was like fake Yeezy slides. So I probably tried like 15 different business models. And everything that's worked for me has always been accidental once again. Like it's always come to me like, hey, here's an opportunity presented to you, take it, right? And this was the first business that actually made me money after, trying 15 different things. And it was a video creative agency for real estate agents specifically.
Okay.
And my mom one day, after COVID passed, she started doing more real estate. The real estate market was booming back then. People were overpaying for any property just because they wanted to be in Florida in the water. So any waterfront property was, if it was worth $6 million, it was selling for $11 million. It was insane for a while. For like 2 years, it was like that. And maybe a year and a half. And she started making a decent amount of money. And she was paying about $200 per video for a guy to come out with a drone and shoot the house. She was getting a good amount of listings. The market was great. And I told her one time, I was like, hey, I can make these videos for you. I've been doing content since I was a little kid. I was making videos about guitars, cars. I had a YouTube channel when I was like 10, reacting to like funny content. And I've always liked content. I've always liked social media since I was young. And I told her, she's like, let me make these videos for you. So I bought a Gizmo DJI little thing for like the pocket hand. It was $100. And I made the first video for her. She posted on her social media. And you know how real estate agents are.
Right.
Once one real estate agent posts something that's cool, they all want it.
Right.
Like they're all very trendy. They always seek the trends. And the market was good. So they started DMing my mom, hey, I want your son to do this. I want your son to do this for me. I want your son to do this. Or they were asking her, who's doing this? My son's doing this. Boom. Connect. And I started going to open houses. I would tell the real estate agents.
You're like 14 or 15 at this point.
At this point, I was 14.
Okay.
And I was telling the real estate agents that I would film the videos for free. Very easy marketing strategy. So up to this time, I had not had to learn how to actually properly run ads or how to market myself. It just sells like in person. I've always been good at networking. And I did that for a while until one time I was at a real estate kind of like networking event at a open, like a US Open event. And I was talking to this guy who goes, what do you do? I tell them I do videos. And he didn't understand me. He thought I did social media.
Okay.
So he goes, listen, I'll pay you $500 a month, manage my social media. And I was like, this is consistent, you know, because I was making the $100 per video for these clients, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot of back-end editing, and I could only do so many of them. It wasn't scalable unless I hired more people, and I didn't know how to do that yet, right? So I started doing the social media agency, and this was my first client, which I had for like 6 months before I could even find another client. So I worked with this client for $500 a month, and it was insane to me because I was feeling like I was robbing this guy out of a brand new car. I was like, he's paying me $500 to do like 5 posts a week or 5 posts a month.
Oh my God.
It's like, he's literally giving me a brand new car payment at the time. It's like,
right.
I was like, I could buy a car with the money he's giving me. So, and for a while it stopped me from like trying to push the business forward because I felt a little bit of like imposter syndrome in terms of like, you know, maybe my value is not there. I have never done social media before in terms of like actually growing a social media. But I hired one of my friends from school. I paid her $40 a month to do all the content. And I started cold calling.
Okay.
And then the media agency kept growing until one day I met Ryan Serhant. And this is where it gets really interesting. Do a video with Ryan Serhant. Video gets about 6.5 million views in the first week and a half.
Wow. And
it goes viral. All of a sudden, I am the most recognized agency in the real estate space. From one day to the other, and I have never even ran marketing at all.
And now you're like what, 15?
No, it all happened very fast.
Okay, so you're still 14.
Yeah, and at this time, I was going to a lot of masterminds. I had gone to the vault the year before, and I was investing everything that I was making, most of it into try to like research how to become better in business.
Hold on a second. So stop there for a second. So that's unusual. That's very unusual that someone as young as you were, 14 years old, is self-aware enough that, hey, I'm making all this money instead of like getting the nice car with the car payment and new pair of sneakers every week and whatever it might be. You're like, no, let me reinvest in myself. Where did that come from? That seems like an unusual switch to flip at 14.
So yeah, I mean, it came from the lack of understanding that I didn't know what I was doing. Like the imposter syndrome where I was like, I feel like I cannot provide enough value. I need to learn how to actually provide value. Because it came to me very easy. Like getting the clients came to me very easy because I was in a good environment. And I didn't feel like I could provide enough value to these people. So I wanted to learn how to provide value.
That's smart, actually. Cool.
Yeah. And yeah, basically did that for a while. And I forced myself to learn because I couldn't make videos for 150 people a day. Like I was getting like 10 to 15 both calls from that video. Wow. It was ridiculous because, you know, I'd respond to all the comments. Here's one thing I did. Right. Every time I would see, it's like, he is such a brilliant kid. What an amazing interviewer. What an amazing video. I would respond to his comment. Thank you so much for your support. They check my page, all real estate content. DM. Oh, I'm curious. How do you do this? I'm curious. I want to do this. And that did great. So I'm the kind of person that if you ask me, can you do this? I will say I can, and I will learn how to do it, and I will do it at my best ability possible. Yeah. And that's how it was. I would have real estate agents come in. Can you do websites? Oh, absolutely. I can do websites. I would do the websites. Oh, can you do this? Absolutely. I can do this. And now I learned how to run ads. I learned how to make websites. Which is why I now do full stack marketing, because I've learned every single form of marketing that there is for local businesses, e-com businesses, everything basically. And yeah, that's how Influx Media started.
And so now, how long? So you've had Influx Media for what, like a year and a half, 2 years? How long?
So no, it's
A little
going on
longer.
to like 4 years now.
4 years. Okay. So 4 years, and how many people do you have involved? Both whether they're employees or contractors. Like, how many people is your team?
Yeah. So employees that work for me are 12 people that
Okay.
are just kind of doing all the day-to-day tasks. And then in terms of contractors, it's a little bit complex because it's more of like a per project basis.
Got it.
So
Okay.
sometimes we'll need like we sell this package where we help them build like lead magnets. We're like a bunch of PDFs and they send us the documents. We have a bunch of designers do it. We probably hired 3 people for that project.
Sure. Got it. So you're managing a team of 12 people, 19 years old. You don't even have the benefit of having had good or bad experiences being led and managed by other people,
Right.
right? So, like, where does what is your leadership style, and where did it come from?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of being the front end of the business and leading by example and just rewarding good behavior and basically motivating people on what matters to them. I feel like a lot of leaders make the mistake of rewarding them on what matters to the leader itself.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't value money as much as you think they do. A lot of people don't value appreciation as much as you think they do. Some people might value paid time off. Some people might value recognition in the company, right? So I've become really good at understanding what each person wants from the business and providing that to them for them to keep motivated and working. And I feel like a lot of it came from Patrick with David.
Oh,
Yeah, I discovered Patrick very early on in like my business journey.
oh, that's great. So now, at what point did you decide? When you were much earlier, like probably like in grammar school, were you a good student?
So I would say
Right.
I was a good student until freshman year of high school.
Okay.
Freshman, I was supposed to graduate a year early. I was always taking the class ahead. So in 8th grade, I was taking 9th grade classes.
Right.
And what changed freshman year is that I met a guy in my building that was wearing a shirt that says, "Buy NFTs, not cocaine."
Okay.
And at that time, I was learning about NFTs. I was working slightly, nothing crazy, like supporting one of my friends who was starting an NFT project with the marketing and like the Twitter. At the time, Twitter was very difficult to grow, so we started spamming like the page everywhere. It grew pretty quickly. The project didn't do well, but I met this guy in the elevator in my building, and he was wearing a shirt, "Buy cocaine, not NFT," or no, "Buy NFTs, not cocaine."
Right. Right. Right.
That's what
Right.
it was. And I go, "Oh, you like NFTs?" He goes, "Yeah, man, I love NFTs. That's what I do for a living."
Yeah.
And he owned the project, the donut shop
Yeah.
NFTs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he owned that.
Oh, wow.
And he was a great mentor for me at the time because he taught me what real money looked like. Somebody was making 300K per transaction sometimes.
Wow.
Like he would flip a project, he'd make 150K in front of me. And that allowed me to expand my horizons. So 5K, 2K a month, like, $1,000 a month is nothing. Like I want to go for more. He had a really cool car at the time too, which really inspired me because I was like, this guy's 23. He has a house in the water. He's making all this money. It's super cool. So I worked with him for a while. And this is like a time where I stopped going to school as much because I was like, there's no point.
Right.
I was like, I'm making enough money to have fun. At this point, I was really not smart with my money. So I was
Right.
buying a bunch of designer clothes, a bunch of sneakers, because I was also making money from my agency too at the time. And yeah, I learned a lot from that. That's probably like the biggest lessons that I've learned came from meeting this person.
So how old were you when you finally pulled the ripcord and be like, yeah, I'm out. School's out. I'm done.
And so I left school when I was about to turn 17,
Okay.
maybe a little bit before 17.
And how did your mom feel about that?
So I got kicked out of my house.
Oh, okay.
I got kicked out of my
Because of that?
I got kicked out of my house 2 weeks after I dropped out of school.
Okay.
And a lot of it came from me not going to school.
Okay. And was there a comment, like, I mean, because you were doing pretty well, right?
In school.
Oh, no, meaning like financially.
Yeah, but it was very inconsistent.
Okay.
It was very inconsistent for a while. I had lost a lot of money from learning crypto,
Sure.
and the crypto market had crashed tremendously.
Right, right.
And I had all these liabilities, watches, shoes, all this stuff that really had no value that I spent a lot of money on. I was basically running at zero. Everything I made from crypto, I bought it because it came so easy to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't even know my numbers. I didn't know how much money I made the year. I didn't know how much money I had.
Right.
So it wasn't super, super secure. But um, yeah.
Well, what'd you learn about money from that process? So obviously, I think most things, when you really look at them, end up being blessings in disguise, because the lessons where you get kicked in the teeth, those are the lessons you never forget. Like those are the ones that, it's like, yeah, I fucked that up, but ultimately the side effect of it is I don't ever want to have that happen again. Like that's the lesson you take with you for life. What did you learn about money going through that process?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. For me, it was more about the fact that it's not guaranteed, right? And to have a abundant mindset doesn't mean careless mindset or a reckless mindset. And one of the things that I learned that was very valuable for me was like I cannot live my life trying to impress other people. Like I'm the priority. My health and my life is a priority, not what other people think of me. So ever since then, I stopped spending money on things that would make other people happy. And in my perspective of it is wanting to live other people's dreams because they can't live, and that makes me feel better. That's what the mindset subconsciously, right? That's what I believe. It's like I'm living other people's dreams, what makes me feel cool. And from there, it's like I want to live my life on my own terms. I want to do what I want to do, right? I want to live the life that I want to live.
Yeah. That's a great insight for someone that young, because some people they don't even, they go to their deathbed, they don't have that insight. So I'm assuming at some point you reconciled with your mom, and maybe talk about that journey and process. Like why did you get kicked out? Was it like, hey, you're being reckless, get the hell out? Like that seemed no, I mean, you were close with your mom, right? So maybe walk through that process, and because that does seem a bit extreme.
Yeah, so I was close with my mom, but she was always, it doesn't matter if I made $10 million in a year or $10 million in a month even. She would always want me to go to school because she felt like school was such a valuable part of life, and she felt like it was such a valuable experience just to say that you have a diploma. She didn't look at school as a resource to make money. But at the same time, is she doesn't understand business.
Right.
She doesn't understand that business actually is a real way to make money without having to go to school, right? Because she went to school, she was the second in her class when she was in school. So her whole life has been revolving as to like, how good am I in school? So she also thinks is like, is he ever gonna regret it? She doesn't want me to have regrets in life, and she wants the safest path for me, which makes sense.
Totally understand.
She's a mom. Something that I love, and I learned this a while back, and it's don't judge your parents by the way they treat you because it's their first time being alive as well.
It's very smart.
So that to me makes me feel like this. I cannot hold like grudges against her because she's never been through that,
Right.
and she only wants the best for me in her eyes. And what would be the best for me in her eyes is not what I believe is the best for me. You know, so yeah, that's mainly the reason why she hated me not going to school. Doesn't matter how much money I was making, and she never, until this day, she never really knew how much money I ever made.
Right. I'm assuming you reconciled at this point, or no? Yeah.
So we're pretty close. I got kicked out of school, or sorry, I left school and I got kicked out of my house. I moved to Fort Lauderdale with a good friend of mine. Shout out to Elias.
Right.
He took care of me for like 6 or 7 months,
Wow.
and then I got into a really bad car accident, and that's when we reconciled again. We were barely speaking for like 6 to 7 months, and then I rented a car because I didn't have a car at the time because I was under 18 and I couldn't get a car. And I drove to Boca to visit my girlfriend, which lives like maybe 10 minutes away from my mom. And as I'm leaving her neighborhood, I hit a car going like 45 miles an hour. The car was parked in the middle of the road with no lights. I don't know how to turn the lights on the car. I crashed and my car flies over the other car and I end up upside down.
Right.
My phone flew out of the window, which at this point I think it's a blessing because if I would have found my phone, I would have never called my mom. The first person I would have called was not my mom.
Right.
It would have been probably my dad or my girlfriend
Right.
to call somebody to come. Or I was called 911.
Right.
But car flipped over and somebody goes, you need to call somebody. The only number I know is my mom's. That's the only number I know by heart.
Okay.
So I said, fuck, I gotta call my mom now. So I called my mom, hey, I crashed the car. You gotta come get me.
Wow.
And then when she came to get me, the ambulance came and they were like, no, you gotta come with us. I was like, no, I don't want to go with you. She goes, no, you're gonna come with us. If a car flips over, it's protocol to take you to the hospital to check that everything's right. Fuck, I'm gonna get ripped out of 60 grand now.
Right.
So I go in the hospital. My mom's like super pissed off. She's like all upset. And I ended up staying with her from that day. Because I didn't want to go back after I got released from the hospital. Everything was fine. I wasn't hurt or anything. I was walking around like normal. And the firefighters were like, yo, you good? I was like, yeah, chilling. I hopped in the back of the truck and my heart rate's obviously high. And the guy's like, he's like talking to his partner. He's like, he's done cocaine. He's done some sort of drug. He's like asking me, are you on drugs? And then his partner's like, shut up. He just got into a car accident
Right.
on a car that's not his. He's obviously gonna be nervous.
Right.
But yeah, basically after the hospital, I went to my mom's house and I stayed there. And then we became good again.
That's
And
nice.
I just stayed there because I was going on a trip like 2 weeks later. So I was like, I'm just gonna stay here for 2 weeks and then I'll go to my trip. And then I went to the trip. It was in Panama. I stayed there for a month. And then I came back home and then I went to another trip and I took my mom with me. It was a month in Europe and that went great. So from there we've been doing quite well.
Nice. And so now your mom's, would you say she's comfortable with the path you're on now? Or she still wants you to go back and get your high school diploma?
So she wants me to get my high school diploma or at least a GED. She always hates the fact that I didn't go to college because all her friends' sons went to college.
Right.
And in
Send her my video of ripping up my Wharton diploma.
I have to. I definitely do have to. I'll send it to her. But in Latin American culture, you're a failure no matter how much money you make
Yeah.
if you don't go to school.
Yeah.
So she feels sad that all her sons or her friends' sons or daughters went to school and they get pictures with their diplomas and they're graduating from FIU. And, it's always in the back of her head. But she's gotten to it and, it's been good relationship other than, the fact that she brings it up every once in a while.
Right. And what about your dad?
My dad loves it.
Yeah.
My dad, if anything, thinks I'm too obsessed.
Yeah.
He always tells me that I have to spend more time with myself and I have to slow down a little bit.
What do you think?
I can't. Every time I go to his house, he doesn't allow me to be on my computer like before like 9 a.m. because he's like, you shouldn't be on your computer in the morning. You have to like meditate and like take time to yourself. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do that unless I finish my work. Once I'm done with work, I can do that. But work for me is like I always find something to do. So I work almost like 24/7 if I'm on my computer, unless I'm outside. So for him, it's like hard to understand that that's the path I chose because he would be unhappy in my life.
Yeah.
So for him, it's like I don't want you to be unhappy because he would be unhappy if he was doing what I'm doing.
I think people don't understand, and I don't put words in your mouth, but I feel like, at least from the outside looking in, when I watch, people like you and Joey and the other guys, like it feels like you guys your life is like a video game. Like, you're working, but it's still a game. Like, say it's like who doesn't want to be playing a video game all day? Like that's fun, And like so long as you don't, and yes, it's work, and yeah, you're problem solving and all of that. But if you like the people you're doing it with, and you like what you're doing, and you like how much you're getting paid to do it, like I don't really feel like work that much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had a really hard time with stepping out of work. Like when I would be in the gym, all I could think about was work for a very, very long time. And I don't know. And my dad saw that. My dad saw me not being present, and I guess he was like, "Oh, like he's not happy." But I'm happy. I'm unhappy if I have to force myself to do something that I want to do.
It's funny if someone said you can only have one word to describe Sergio, the word I would pick is happy. Like literally be the one word I pick. You're smiling all the time every time I see you.
I love it.
And it's like you seem like, and I'm curious where this comes from. Because again, this is just the outside looking in, but I feel like I could drop you in the middle of like Chernobyl or like the middle of like Afghanistan, and you'd still somehow find a way to be happy. Like you seem like you come across to me as as the kind of person that just finds happiness where you are. Do you think that that's true, or maybe that's just my hallucination of you?
No, well, I appreciate that. That's your view on me. That's great. For me, it's more of a fact of I can't control the circumstances around me, right? I will only stress, like my motors, I will only stress on what I can change. If there's something that I can change, I cannot stress about it because stress doesn't solve an issue. And for me, stress,
It's even worse, right? When you're stressed, especially about things you can't control, you're actually going to make worse decisions.
right? And for me, when I say about stress, is the active thought of not solving the issue. Because if, for example, people that go to school, and this is the easiest way to put it, when you had a test, the only reason you were stressed about that test is because you didn't study enough.
Right.
But if you studied, you wouldn't be stressed. So I'm not stressed because I'm taking care of the things I have to take care of. So if stress to me is the lack of solving, but I am solving, then stress doesn't exist. So if I cannot solve, why would I stress? That's my formula for that.
Right.
So I just live and I'm blessed to be alive. And from where I am now, my reality is not what it is. Like my reality, written by word, the way I was born, the way I was raised, it's not this. I built this reality for myself, and I am so grateful that I have that everything that happens that is around me doesn't affect me because I am so happy in the place that I have put myself in. And Yeah, for me, it's like I always hated school so much after like I always did. I always hated being controlled. I always hated being told what to do. So for me, the fact that I have the freedom to not be somewhere, that to me is enough of a reason to be happy.
Honestly, like for me, I was always a pretty good student and I was the same as you. I fucking hated school. I've always hated school. In fact, I remember my dad laughing at me because when I finished college, I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I've always hated it. I fucking got through it. I don't ever want to hear about education again. And then I decided to go back and get my MBA. And I'm like, what an idiot. I mean, it worked out okay, but it's like, same thing. It's like the structure. It's such a bad mechanism to do knowledge transfer, to actually
Absolutely.
to accumulate information. I mean, it's like, and obviously it's very different. There was no internet when I was growing up, but it's like now it's like formal education is the least efficient way to get information
Yeah, no, absolutely.
and the wrong information.
And this is why I feel like most people think college is not a scam because they feel like the people that don't go to college don't like to learn, or they think that people that drop out are lazy
Right.
because they think like, oh, you're just lazy. You don't want to do work, or you're just lazy. You don't want to learn. You don't want to learn. You don't care about your education. Oh, I care about my education. It's just what they're teaching is not true. It's not accurate. It's just wasting my time. I would rather learn from people that have actually done what I want to do. I would rather learn from people that are actually knowledgeable. I love learning. I'm a very curious person.
Some of the laziest people on the planet are in college or business school, literally. I mean, and I gotta say, hanging out with you guys, like you guys are the hardest working people I know. Okay, and the people I went to business. I mean, for most people, business school was a 2-year drunk fest. They were drunk for 2 years. And I went to the best business school in the country. Like literally, I had 3 part-time jobs. I wrote a weekly article. Then like I was only sleeping 3 hours a night. I wasn't drinking, but I was the exception. Most people, because the education itself was not that hard. Like the classes were not that hard. So everyone was fucking off. They were getting drunk, partying, hooking up. They were not learning. You guys are heads down all the time. You're not drinking. You're not taking drugs. Like people are like, oh, the youth these days. I'm like, you're hanging out with the wrong guys. The people I'm hanging out with, these guys are teenagers and they're killing it. Well, so talk a little bit about that. That, and again, it's not that no one in your circle ever has a drop of alcohol, but for the most part, people aren't really drinkers. At least I haven't seen anyone doing any kind of drugs or anything like that. Why is that? Is that because is that something you guys talk about and it's a decision you make, or it's just how it's played out, or how does that come to be?
In terms of like why I don't drink.
Yeah, you and not just you, but you and it seems like the people in your circle for the most part. Max doesn't really drink, Joey doesn't really drink. It seems like a lot of the people in your circle, like, these are people that are pretty straight edge.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with the way life moves and like how business has been evolving, you need to be a very certain type of person to become successful. And unless you're like hyper successful, if you're getting drunk every weekend, you will not succeed at a young age. Like that doesn't happen. And for you to be able to grab so much leverage and so much time and optimize that, you have to be very careful with what you do with your time, right? Because I'm not 40. It's not like I've had 30 years on my back to actually build a business and I've been able to waste a year.
Yeah.
Like, if you have 40 years behind you and you waste a year, it doesn't make too much of a difference as to where you are at 45.
Right.
But if I'm 19 and I waste a year smoking, drinking, partying, that's going to have a massive impact as to where I'm at when I'm 20, because the time frame is a lot shorter. So I feel like a lot of the people that are successful around my circle, they've achieved that because they don't drink. They've achieved that because they don't do drugs, and they're actively aware of what they're doing a lot of the times, and their brain's always working and always thinking about it. So
Right.
like we're just putting more hours and we don't really have the time to go out and drink, and we're also very careful with how we allocate our time.
Yep. Well, speaking of allocating your time, so um, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, I think the saying they had was the 3 L's that will destroy your life: liquor, leverage, and ladies. um, talk a little bit about, because that is the third big distraction besides drugs and alcohol is women, right? And nothing wrong with having girlfriends. Lots of you guys, that I've been hanging out, you guys have girlfriends or people you see, whatever it might be. Maybe talk about how you and your circle think about that, um, and how do you have it be neutral or a force multiplier as opposed to having it be a distraction?
No, absolutely. I feel like it's very hard, especially at a young age, but I've been very fortunate to find somebody that is very like motivating and is very powerful towards like what I want to do. So like I'll give you an example as to how she's a force multiplier. We had an event in Brickell, and the whole time I was like focused on how to make the event logistically function. I'm not a very like when I'm working, I'm not a very emotional, caring person. Like I'm very go go. Like let me figure out what's wrong and let me fix it. So my girlfriend, which is a highly emotional person, noticed that everybody around was like a little bit down and bored while I was fixing everything. So what she did is she door dashed pretzels and drinks for everybody.
Okay.
And she was like passing them around. People started like talking now because they had to stand up to get the pretzels, and
Yeah.
it fixed the emotional side of the event being down in emotion.
Mm.
So she's done things like that throughout like my business and throughout my life since we started dating. There's like, I like this, she really adds value to my life in many different ways. And, that's one of them. A lot of the times I have the opportunity to talk to her about certain things that I don't know if I did the right or wrong thing in terms of like how I treated somebody, in terms of like what I did in that decision. She's very intuitive. If she meets somebody, she knows, most of the time she's very right. She'll tell me, yeah, that person's gonna screw you over left or right. Or this person gives me like a very evil aura. And like she'll tell me these things. I'm like, okay, let me see. And then I'll notice it 2 months down the line. It's like, for example, I had a friend that borrowed my friend's car, and she would always tell me, I don't like this kid, I don't like this kid. This kid's like no good. Borrowed my friend's car for like a whole entire month because my friend was out of the country. He said, you can use it if you ever need it. Left the car out of battery, it was a Tesla, and left it parked there for my friend to have to pay a $2,000 tow to get the car out of the parking because it was dead in battery.
Ugh.
So you didn't do that to somebody that's letting you borrow a car.
Right.
So that's for me, that's what's been really helpful in having a relationship, is the emotional aspect of it. Being able to have something that actually allows me to recharge rather than just like scroll reels or, just sit in bed, watch movies. Like she's allowed me to have good conversations. She's very smart. We can go out to dinner and have a good time, and helps me recharge so that tomorrow I can go and keep grinding and keep growing.
And is it hard to find someone? Again, I would imagine it's probably a little bit harder to find someone when you're younger that's going to be understanding about, how focused you are on the grind, on trying to build yourself, develop yourself, and maybe don't have as much time to go to the party, go to the nightclub, go to the, go out to the restaurant, stuff like that.
No, absolutely. You're very, very right, actually. And I feel like a lot of it comes from people not being able to set the expectations straight when they first start dating.
Right.
So if you were to tell somebody, first date, here's what I believe in, here's my vision, here's my values, do you think you can align with them?
Right.
And if that person says no, then you just saved yourself 6 months of a relationship that wasn't going to go anywhere. So when I first started my girlfriend, one of the first conversations we had was what I wanted to achieve in life and
Right.
what I expected from her. Right. And she had knew me through another relationship I had. Like we'd been friends for a while, and she had seen how I behaved in relationships, and she had seen how hard it was for my ex to be in a relationship with me, how I would not hang out with her, how I wouldn't watch movies with her, and it was when I first started my business, so it was a lot tougher than it is now because now I've learned how to manage it, right?
Yeah.
But she saw that and she was okay with that because she understood and expected the right things.
Mm.
So I feel like it is challenging, but if you set the expectations straight, somebody that really wants to be with you will be able to make those changes and adapt. My girlfriend wasn't super party driven and wasn't super like crazy, but when we first started dating, but she had a curiosity to do it. Right?
Sure.
She always wanted to go to the club and see what it was like. But through our relationship and showing her what my values are and what my vision is, she's learned that maybe that's not the right thing to do in life. It's like when she's 40, she's gonna regret, partying and drinking all day rather than focusing on building a family.
Right.
And I've been able to explain to her where I want to go, and she's been able to adapt to it very well.
Do you feel like by not doing some of that stuff, do you feel like you're missing out?
Not at all. It's for me, I don't even enjoy it. And for me, it brings me so much more happiness to know that I'm living my life in the best way possible.
Mm.
And that by the time I'm 30, I will not have the regret that, I wasted my life in clubs and parties and I built nothing from it.
Right. Now, because you're so young and you have so much of your career still ahead of you, how do you think about that arc? Like, do you say, you know what, I'm just gonna stay in the moment. I'm thinking 3 months ahead or 6 months ahead, but past that, let's just see where we are. Or do you have some like 3-year plan, 5-year plan? It's gonna change and adjust. Like, I'm trying to imagine how I might think about it at 19, and I really don't know how I think about it, how I would think about it. How do you think about that? And Do you sort of have the long-term thing, or are you more kind of in the here and now and more the short term?
Yeah, for me it's challenging because everything moves so quickly. Like I'll go from doing retreats and travels to and like in like countries like Costa Rica and Puerto Rico to then the next trip being a mansion in Miami.
Right,
Like everything shifts so quickly that it's hard for me to paint a long-term vision in terms of like where my business is going to be and where I'm going to be. Like I could be working in Influx Media right now and I have a client asking me to come in as a consultant and take 10% of the business. 2 years later, that business is worth, $100 million.
right,
So I get a lot of offers where people come and it's like, hey, I want you to work with us in the marketing side of the business.
right.
I want you to come in and help us with that. So it's very in and out of like what's going to happen. But I do have a very long term vision as to why I want to become. Like, what do I look like as a like? What's my character look like? What's my intellectual look like? What's my people around like what the people around me look like? It's more as like what I want to be as a person rather than what I want to achieve.
Well, talk a little bit about that then. So, like, do you have a vision board for this thing, or is this just a concept you have in your head? And how did you come to decide, hey, this is the kind of person I want to be, this kind of values I want to have, this kind of life I want to live? How did you come to those things, and what does that look like, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I've met a lot of people that are way older than me that are living the life that I would want, right? It's kind of for me been a big guidance as to how I have to behave. What does the person that I want to become look like? And I've just grabbed my favorite things of everybody that I've spoken to that is in that position. I know people that are very curious and very in depth to certain topics, and it's like I want to be like this person. They're very knowledgeable about this. This inspires me. I need to start learning about this. When you started talking to me about human psychology when we were in Costa Rica,
Right.
it made me very interested in learning about it because that's something that I value from you. It's your ability to read people, your ability to kind of tell who is successful in terms of like who's actually going to make it, how people are feeling, telling how people are thinking about certain situations. You're very good at reading people. And that's something I admire from you. So from talking to you, I said, why is Dave like that? What is Dave, what has Dave done in his whole life to be able to get that? And it was, okay, I have to research it and read about it and learn about this specific topic, which I remember it was NLP when we were first talking
Right.
about it. And
Yeah.
I've done some research on it and I want to continue doing more research on that and then expand my knowledge on that area.
I appreciate that. Well, what else? What else do you think about? So when you think about, let's talk about your sort of your moral compass and the kind of person that you are, and the kind of person you want to be. As you continue to evolve throughout your life, where does that come from? Is that kind of an amalgamation of different people, or is there a specific person that you aspire to be like?
No, so I feel like a lot of it's like a bunch of different people's best qualities that I've personally find
Right.
interesting. I want to adopt as many as them as possible.
Mm.
So yeah, that's just been for me. It's like I want to become a person that is reliable. I want to become a person that is trustworthy. I want to become a person that people around them feel proud of. Like it's like I'm proud to be around this person because I have so much value coming from this person. Like I want to be a provider,
Sure.
right? And that to me, it's like I want my wife to look up to me and say, "Hey, like he's worked really hard. He's a great parent, or he's a great father to her family."
Right.
So that's kind of like my long term vision.
Got it. Talk a little bit. One of the things I'm so impressed with. I mean, obviously, I've been to a couple of the masterminds, which I was grateful that you invited me to, but I just find it so interesting that that all of you guys in your circle are so focused on networking, and which is so smart. I mean, honestly, like it takes a village. There's no person is an island. If I could go back in time and there's one thing I could have done better, I should have done more networking earlier on in my career. Where did that when did that light bulb go off for you? And because you definitely seem like you make that a big part of, guys are planning these trips all the time, which I think you made this point when you were describing it to me, which is, hey, it's one thing to go to a networking event and hang out for an hour or so. It's a very different thing to spend 3 or 4 days in another country and having these experiences together, and you create a relationship that's just a very different depth than it would be in the more traditional way. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So for me, it was more of while I was growing up, I didn't have many friends. Like I didn't know a lot of people that were interested in the things I wanted to do. So for the first maybe like 2 years or 3 years of actually working in my business, I felt like I was missing out on a lot of things.
Mm,
And I was a very odd kid, you could say, because everybody else was normal, right? Like that's what they believe it's like, oh, I play sports. I go out and like I go to like hangouts. I didn't really do that when I was younger.
Right.
Like I didn't play sports because I was a lot focused on growing my business and improving myself. I didn't really go out because I didn't play sports, I didn't have friends because
Right.
in school people didn't really talk. You can't really become friends in school if you're not doing things with them, right?
Right.
Like you're going out or playing sports with them. So for the first even longer, maybe like until I met Joey, probably,
Mm.
I had a massive issue with finding people that understood where I was going. And I would see people like Jacob, which we're staying at his house now. I would
Right.
see people like Iman, and I was like, I want to be like them, and I want to be around people like them. But I couldn't because I was nowhere near. First of all, I was too young to hang out with people that were like 19, 20.
Right.
Now I can because it's the age difference doesn't matter as much. But when I was younger, I didn't have a maturity level. I didn't have the income to justify spending on trips that they do or going out to dinner where the places that they go, and simply just didn't make sense. And I wanted to create a community where people could meet each other and relate without that barrier of like, how much money do you make?
Right.
Where do you live? Do you have a penthouse in Miami? No, I don't want to talk to you.
Right. Right.
Where it's more like we're going through really cool adventures. We're going through hardships like breaking the car or losing the camera that Trace lost at the
Right.
trip, and certain situations that make us grow together and make us learn from each other and create that long-term relationship, money, business aside.
Right. No, that's great. Honestly, it's funny. I rarely have really any regrets, but and growing up, I was well. I mean, I played sports, but I was an outcast too. Like the jocks thought I was a geek, the geeks thought I was a jock. So I didn't really have a lot of friends, in middle school and high school. And I always felt weird. Like I'm misunderstood. Let's put it that way, I guess. But like I feel like if I were born today, like if I like, oh man, it would be such a wonderful time because it's so easy to accumulate knowledge. It's so easy to meet like-minded people, because you can connect, electronically where that really wasn't a thing. If someone didn't live in your hometown, like that's it. That's it. That's a universe of people you're gonna be exposed to. But it's so cool to see you guys on the journey you're on. Honestly, it's just really fun to watch. Um, Talk a little bit about mentorship. Both being mentored by people and I'm sure in some form, you're probably mentoring other people too. Maybe talk a little bit about that and maybe what you feel like you learn from mentoring people and maybe what you look for when you seek out someone to mentor you.
Absolutely. So I think that in life you need three types of people. You need people that are mentoring you. You need people that are at the same level as you, and you need people that you're teaching. And a lot of the times you learn more from teaching people than you do from learning from other people. That's something I've learned in my life. I've learned a lot from providing value to other people, going out of my way to help them, right? In terms of mentors, what I look for, I look I look at what their life looks like, and what are the big discrepancies that they have. Like what are their biggest weaknesses, right? And is this something that I want to live like? Like, is their life something that I want to have, right? And there's a lot of people that are older than me that make a lot of money, but then I look at their life and they're clubbing every day. They wake up 2 p.m. They're sluggish. They don't really present themselves well. It's like, yeah, I mean, you make a lot of money, but I do not want to be like you. You don't seem happy. You seem depressed. You're not fit. You don't look healthy. I wouldn't want to be even around you. So for me, I just look at them as like, is this a person that I'm proud of? Like if I'm hanging out with them, am I proud of like, yeah, I'm friends with this person, right? And if I can have that, that's a good mentor to me.
Got it. And what about how do you decide that someone's worth investing your time and energy in that maybe, you might be teaching and mentoring?
For me, I think that's a very selfish thing. If you're helping somebody based on is it gonna be worth your time and energy, I just try to help people that actually deserve to be helped.
I meant it more that way, which is like this is a person that meaning like not that meaning this is a person who I know that if I invest my time and energy in them, they're going to develop because they're seeking mentorship. You know what I'm saying? Like that they are deserving of it because they're looking for it.
Right, that makes sense. So in terms of like of that, I don't really have a super complex process.
Okay.
I'm very open with providing help and providing value and knowledge. If I can help somebody in any way, I will. And it's more of a fact of like if they're asking for help, they need it, right?
Sure.
And I wish I had that when I was growing up. I liked mentors for a very long time of my period, which is why it took me so long to make my first little bit of money. Like I didn't make any money for my first like maybe 2 years in business, I made $10,000 cash collected in my first 2 years.
Okay.
And I was working immense, ridiculous hours. And I would see people that were working at Chick-fil-A, and I was like, maybe that's the path I should go through. And my
Right.
mom was always forcing me, like, try to get a job at Wendy's, try to get a job at Wendy's.
Oh my God.
And I was like, yeah, I didn't really have mentors in that space of business for a very long time. So for me, it's like, it's very special to be able to give back. And if I can help somebody accelerate their journey even by, a year, that to me is really exciting.
Mm. Is there somebody that you've, sort of coached in that way that you're most proud of? Like, oh man, I invested some time and energy in this person and they're killing it now. And I feel really good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have this one kid that DM'd me on Instagram a while back, and he is in Morocco. It's a marketing agency off of Morocco. And we hopped on a 45-minute call because he asked me for some advice. I sent him the link. We hopped on a call. It was him and his brother that were running the business. They had no employees, very small structure, very low clients, $300 a month, Moroccan clients that weren't really performing at all. Their ads weren't doing well. They were trying to figure it out. How about a 45-minute call with them? And all I did was teach them how I structured my team so that I didn't have to work on the business. 6 months or 3 months or 4 months, I don't remember. A couple months later, let's just put it like that.
Yeah.
A couple months later, we hopped on a call. They had 9 team members working for them. They had like 25 clients, and they were making like $20K a month in Morocco.
Wow.
On a 45-minute call, I was like, holy, that's cool.
That feels great. Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, it's fun to make money, but it is even more fun to help some other people make money, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're good enough to help other people make money, you're good enough to make money for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm working with these kids right now off of, I believe, Nebraska or Arkansas. And they're starting their first marketing agency, and they were door-to-door, like window cleaning guys back in the day. So they have some like business knowledge, and it's so cool how quick somebody can grow if they have the right person with them.
Yeah.
Like I literally hopped on like maybe 3 calls with them, and they're getting like 4 or 5 clients. Like it took me 2.5 years to get my first monthly paying client, So it's cool to be able to accelerate that journey for them and seeing them like, oh my God, I was doing all of this wrong. Like now I actually have somebody that can help me actually do it right.
Well, it's funny. I will say, you in addition to always seeming happy, the other quality you have that is unique and extreme. Whenever I'm around you, you ask me more questions than anybody. Like you ask a lot. Like your level of curiosity is like through the roof. Which that means you're a lifelong learner. You're always trying to improve. It feels like that there's not an hour that goes by that you're not trying to improve 1%. And when you do that, the compounding on that is ridiculous. So let me ask you this, especially in Miami, but just broadly, there's so much bullshit, scamming, stuff like that. There are a lot of people making a lot of money doing a lot of bullshit, right? There just are. It would have been easy to take that path as opposed to the path, or easier to take that path than the path you chose, which is no. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to develop the skill sets necessary to deliver value. I'm sure part of it's because you had good parents, you have a good moral compass, but was it a conscious decision like, hey, look, I don't want to be like that? Or was it just, that's just the output of how you grew up?
Yeah. So one thing that my mom did really well is she taught me a lot of really good values and as a person. She shaped me really well as a caring person for everybody else. And I've had a really hard time, especially at the beginning of the journey, doing things right because it was so easy to not do them right. It was so easy to go and, do OnlyFans management. And it was so easy. I had offers for OnlyFans management.
Right.
My mentor that was doing the NFTs also had an OnlyFans management agency, and he offered to pay me $11,000 a week.
Wow.
As a 15-year-old at the time.
Wow.
And I told my mom that, and she started crying.
Wow.
And she goes, money is your enemy if you're doing that. If your money is affecting other people, like if what you're doing for a living is affecting other people's lives, you are evil because you're affecting other people's lives in exchange of money. And are other people's lives worth so little? Because money at the end of the day, it's not real. It's just the energy and time of other people. So that's really got me thinking is like, I wouldn't want that to happen to my daughter. Like I wouldn't want a guy to just go and be like, oh, like come here, I'll pay you $50,000 a month to do OnlyFans. I wouldn't want my kid to get addicted to that. So for me, it's always been, that's just one example, but for me, it's always been like, if my work is going to impact other people's lives negatively, I don't deserve to have that. And I don't personally couldn't sleep at night well, knowing that my work is affecting people's lives negatively.
So at 15 years old, you were basically offered $500,000 a year, and you said no because of your values. Wow. I don't know what to say. The percentage of 15-year-olds that would have made that decision, very fucking small.
And I'm telling you, it's hard.
I'm sure. It should have been hard.
I was upset at my mom at first.
I would imagine.
I was like, because I couldn't sign the contract by myself, and I wanted to.
Ah, okay. Right.
It taught me a very valuable lesson when she said that. She said that if your money is affecting other people's lives negatively, you are evil. That changed my perspective in business and money forever.
Wow. Wow. I'm going to meet your mom. Well, Sergio, I really appreciate you doing this. This content, I think, has been terrific. You're terrific. Where can people find you? Find out what you're doing. I want you to shamelessly plug yourself because you deserve to.
Thank you very much. So yeah, Sergio Mendez on Instagram. That's the biggest platform I use to communicate. So if you guys have any questions, shoot me a DM and we'll hop on a 45-minute call.
Sergio, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me, man.
Dude, pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.